Hi guys, today we're going to work on future worlds and we're going to focus on inferencing. The first thing we need to do is look at our focus question. How do people feel when they face challenges? So think about a time that you have faced a challenge. How did it make you feel? Did you want to give up? Did you meet your challenge head on and persevere? We're also going to notice and wonder as we read. We're going to look at the science fiction stories that we will read in this lesson. We're going to look for things that we notice and what we wonder or what we want to know more about during our story. And we're going to discuss our ideas at the end. We also have a list of meaning words up here. So we're going to talk about shades of meaning. Sometimes words are used to convey a more dramatic meaning. For example, startled and shocked. Shocked is more dramatic, and so it's going to go in the line. Excited and pleased. Excited shows more excitement, so it goes on the line. Terrified and nervous. Terrified is going to show more fear, so it's going to go on the line. And surprised and amazed. Amazed will go on the line. Example I can give is if I said a cat walked up to your house and you did not have a pet, you might be surprised to see the kitten. However, if that cat opened its mouth and began to speak to you, you might be amazed that that kitten was at your house. If you continue to look, we're going to see that the first story we're going to look at in this section is The Cog. Cog is going to be by Greg Van Eekhoort. And here the cog is going to talk about artificial intelligence or a robot. And so we're going to look for how artificial intelligence or non-living intelligence can recognize or what they recognize in terms of human feelings. Then we have The Flying Test by Sarah Matson. And this one we're going to compare our flying test in the future to our driver's education classes here that we have today, or learning how to drive now. And then Down to Earth. In Down to Earth, we're going to look for alternative means of representation, images of futuristic worlds, space stations, and virtual reality references. So let's look at the cog. We're going to start with Cog is a robot who looks like an ordinary boy. He stays with Gina, the scientist who built him. We know that the genre here is science fiction, and we know that because Cog is a robot, he looks like an ordinary boy, and he was built by a scientist. Our goal as we read is we're going to try and determine how do a robot and a human respond to a challenging situation. So looking at a challenge, how do they respond differently? The next thing we need to do is we need to try and determine who our narrator is. So as we read paragraph 1, it says, I remain bad at sleeping. Gina said, sleep is difficult for me because my brain is always working, thinking, and learning. And she didn't want to go monkeying around in my brain before she fully understood what was going on inside my head. Here we see the words I, me, my, and my again. Notice I underline them because they all refer to the narrator. The narrator also refers to Gina with the words she or her, and so that's going to be a third person pronoun. But the narrator refers to himself with I, me, my. So the narrator is referring in first person, so we can determine that the narrator is Cog, the robot. Then we have Gina is not very good at sleeping either. Even though she is not a robot, we have some of the same bugs. In this instance, bug does not mean a creepy crawling creature. It means a glitch or a problem with the system. One such night, I prepared 2 mugs of hot cocoa in the microwave oven, which is a machine that is not capable of learning but is very good at making hot cocoa. Gina was in the laboratory sitting at her computer. I put her mug on her desk. Usually we say thank you, which is standard behavior, and then I would say you're welcome or no problem or think nothing of it, all of which are standard responses. But this time she didn't say anything. She didn't even seem to notice I was there. She just stared at her computer screen with abnormally hydrated eyes. A drop of fluid fell down her cheek. So here we have to determine what is standard behavior. We know standard behavior is the way someone usually acts. So standard behavior in this instance is Cog always brings Gina hot cocoa and she always responds with a thank you. And he responds with a welcome, no problem, or think nothing of it. As Cog is looking at Gina, we have to determine what he's trying to figure out. He doesn't know why she's acting differently. Remember, he's a robot and he does not understand emotions. We also have that phrase hydrated eyes. Hydrated means contains water. If her eyes are containing water, we can assume that she is tearing up or infer that she's tearing up. Then it says a drop of fluid fell down her cheek. Well, we can infer that that drop of fluid, because it's coming from her full eyes, is a tear. So why doesn't Cog understand? Remember, he's the robot and he doesn't understand feelings. If we look at our next one, we have in paragraph 5, a face stared out from the screen, eyes brown like mine, skin the same shade as my synthoderm's sheath, hair like mine, only longer, tied in a ponytail that hugged the left side of the neck. Synthoderm is going to refer to Cog's artificial skin, or that cover that's going to mimic skin over his robotic figure. And then I'm going to underline the similarities between Cog and the figure on the screen. Notice Cog says, eyes brown like mine, skin the same shade of my synthoderm sheath, and hair like mine, only longer. At the bottom of the picture, there were 3 letters, ADA. Who is that? Oh, Gina said, startled. She looked at me, then at the mug on her desk. She took a sip. Thank you, Cog. Think nothing of it. Notice in paragraphs 8 and 9, they're going back to that standard behavior. She realizes the hot chocolate is there. She takes the sip. She says thank you. And then he replies, think nothing of it. I was pleased that we had returned to standard behavior. I waited a moment, and when Gina did not answer my question, I asked whose face was on the computer screen. Gina wiped the fluid from her face. That's ADA, she said, your sister. Remember, fluid is going to be the tears that are falling because we have been able to infer that she's crying. And then Gina has just said that ADA, the person on the screen who looks like Cog, is his sister. I blinked, processing. Here we know that blinking for Cog is going to give him time to think or to process the information. And remember, processing means to figure out the meaning. That's how I think of you two, brother and sister, because I designed and built you both. So here we learn that Gina created ADA and Cog, and she is like a parent to them. They are not biological, but created by the same scientist. That's how Paragraph 15. I continued to blink. Gina's eyes continued to hydrate. She sniffed, so we know she's still crying. Where is ADA now? I asked. Gina clicked her mouse, and the face disappeared. Her screen went to sleep mode. I lost her. Here we have to determine what does she mean by lost her. Is the robot ADA missing? Is the robot deceased or no longer working? Soon Cog would find out where ADA had gone. So this sentence here allows us to know that she has not stopped working, that she is in fact missing or lost. So Gina is sad, or we can infer because she's crying that she is sad about ADA being lost. If we move on to our next page, we're going to work on making some of those inferences together. So let's look at what we have for our first one. The text says a drop of fluid fell down her cheek in paragraph 4. Well, what I know is wet tears fall down people's cheeks when they cry. So I know people cry when sad. What can I infer is that Gina is crying because she is sad or upset that ADA is lost. For my second one, I have where is ADA now? I asked, Gina clicked her mouse and the face disappeared. I lost her. That's paragraph 17 and 18. We know people sometimes miss family members when they cannot be together. Examples would be not being able to be with your family for a holiday or birthday or other special occasion. So we can infer that Gina is sad because ADA is lost. So she does not know where ADA is currently at. If we move on to our next page, we are going to have a write it section where we actually are going to write a short response together. Our prompt says, make an inference about why Gina is acting differently from her standard behavior. Support your inference with text evidence and what you already know. Gina is acting differently from her standard behavior because she is sad ADA is lost. So here I've answered the question. I have standard behavior in quotations because it's going to be a phrase used to talk about behavior that is typical or normal. So it's a specific phrase, so it is quoted. Then I'm going to tell you how I know. But in paragraph 4, Cog notices that Gina does not thank him for bringing her hot cocoa. This is her standard behavior. When Cog gives her the cocoa, she does not say anything, and he notices that her eyes are hydrated. Again, hydrated is a specific word from the story, so I'm going to put it here in quotations. There is also fluid running down her cheek. The wet eyes and cheeks mean that Gina is crying. So here again, we're going to put that what we're able to infer, that we know that wet eyes and wet cheeks mean that she's crying. Gina explains that ADA is Cog's sister and that she lost her. Again, lost her is in specific quotations because it's a specific phrase from our story. Cog doesn't understand why Gina is acting differently, but I can infer that she acts this way because she is sad and misses ADA. Now, this is us wrapping up everything. We know that he doesn't understand because he's a robot. He doesn't understand human feelings. He is artificial intelligence. But as a human who has had sad experiences or missed friends or family or pets at some point in your life, you can make the inference that because ADA is lost, the character Gina is sad.